Hey guys, welcome to Disrupt the Drift. I am Baron Baptiste. Good to be here with you. Today we're going to talk about anxiety and how anxiety, the world is suffering so much right now, man. People, society, humanity at large is suffering, and anxiety is at the source of a lot of it. And we want to talk about what is at the source of all this anxiety. And looking at anxiety as an opportunity, a possibility for your own greatness, to strengthen you, to embolden you, to empower you, to be the human being that you could become. As Shakespeare said, you know who you are and you know not who you could be. Let's talk about it, David. How you doing, buddy?
Fantastic. It's so great to be in the same space with you, even virtually.
Yeah, always. So what I'll let you launch this. What do you see about anxiety and people are dealing with challenges, obstacles, hardships, struggle, burden, and there's just a lot going on, whether it's with anxiety and then that translates into the other areas of their life, financial situations, health, general wellness, dealing with the political division. There's so much anger and noise out there in the realm of social media, and people are struggling. People want something more, something better. They want to align with who they could be in life.
Well, as we were discussing before we started, I believe that a lot of it has to do with identity. And unfortunately, most people are in an identity crisis most of the time, based on outcome-based thinking for the most part, and worrying about things that are happening outside of their control. And so for the person who really wants to get a handle on their life, preparation is the key. Being ready to deal with what's coming at you. Now, if you're not prepared, then you're going to be, out of balance, off kilter. You're going to get sideswiped by things that are happening that you didn't anticipate. And believe me, I've seen people where they will say, "Oh, I didn't see this coming." It's like, wait a minute. How can you see certain things coming? You can't. You just got to be ready to deal with it. So my example to you was, well, if you're an ambulance attendee, let's say you're a paramedic. Yeah. An EMT. You get to a situation, you're prepared to deal with it, whatever it may be. It's just there's some adaptation that has to go on, but your training starts to kick in. And so, there's a saying, luck favors the prepared, but luck is not luck. It's preparation.
Yeah. In just in simple terms, what do you see to be prepared?
Well, again,
what does that mean and how to achieve
in your
that?
center, starting your day, not as the effect of some external prompt or some external pressure, but being in your center so that you can, okay, let me put it to you this way. If you're on a baseball diamond and you're getting ready to hit the guy who is, the ball that's being thrown at you from the pitcher, if you start thinking about doing your laundry or what you're going to have for dinner, you're not going to be able to hit the ball. Your brain's going to go somewhere else. So having control over your mind, having control over your focus is the first place to begin. And that is, in my opinion, a good meditation, which allows you to separate from the thought stream long enough to clear a space, to live in the actual present moment. And from there, anything is possible when you are in the now, as opposed to in the later or in the yesterday. When you're in the now, you're going to see things more clearly and you're going to be ready on a different level to deal with what's coming at you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, meditation for me, I'm a different human being. When I meditate in the morning, I'm a different human being than if I don't meditate. It just gives me something. It clears something. I just get still, get quiet, do nothing, just sit and be and watch my thoughts, watch all my internal states, emotions, thoughts, images, going into the past, going into the future. And I'll point to, what I notice is anxiety. It typically comes out of two things. It comes out of a future. It could be some issue, some struggle that I'm dealing with. And then but I'm worrying, or worry will come up, or some anxiousness that basically is not happening. It's something that could happen. I don't like living in my head anymore. And I've gotten pretty good at seeing, Baron, you just somehow defaulted into your head, what I call thoughting. And to distinguish, just those random thoughts, being lost in thoughts and thoughting is different than thinking, because there's doing thinking when you're thinking through something and maybe bringing a depth of thinking. I think that's different. It's distinct from just lost in thoughts, lost in your imagination, lost in the head.
So I'm going to read to you the origin of the word anxiety. Very interesting. The word anxiety comes from the Latin term, and I'm going to probably botch this, but anexitas, which means anguish or anxiety. This in turn is derived from the Latin word anexios, meaning uneasy or troubled in the mind. Now, the Greek influence, the word anko, A-N-K-H-O, meaning to choke, is also related, reflecting the feeling of tightness often associated with anxiety. Listen, aren't we all kind of choking? Aren't we all sort of suffocating in the overflow of the stress of everyday life? The influencers are constantly throwing out all these different ideas to you. And we were talking a little bit about this, like people
or the news. Yeah.
Everything, the news, they're all the same anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so do you trust yourself? See, this is a core issue. Do you trust you to deal with this stuff? So if you don't trust yourself for whatever reason, and there are lots of reasons, because things have not gone out the way that you thought they would in the past, now you look to other people, so-called experts. But oftentimes when you listen to experts, they don't give you the right direction or the right advice. Then you stop trusting anybody, and then you find yourself having panic attacks. And so the answer there again is to slow down and actually stop for a moment and look for where your center is. Now, your center is actually easy to arrive at, but you have to give it a few moments, and you have to take the time to stop and step back from the thoughts, because, see, the thoughts are like a river. And what happens is when the sluice is removed, the river flows more quickly. And then you start to, like in a video game, you're fighting too many zombies, and then you get overwhelmed, and then you lose the game. Losing the game has to do with struggling with thought. It's a spiritual kind of quicksand that you sink into. So, the meditation you and I do is very much a simple meditation that helps you get out of the thought river.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's true to me. I know when I sit to meditate, the first few minutes or even 10 minutes, whatever, the timing of it, I'm like, my mind, it could be a lot of, I'm consumed in thoughts and mind wandering, going all over. And I know now to just stay. And the more I can, just stay seated, just stay with it, stay present to my feet, to my body, stay present and keep like press pause, stop, drop into the present moment, drop into my body and fall awake. And it's like when I sit to meditate, first, it's like consumed by all these things in the head, all the internal states. But as I just stay with it, it's like those thoughts, they may stay, but they fall into the background. And at a certain point, they disappear. And I'm just here, now here, present. And when I'm now here present, I have access to listening, like genuine, authentic, just pure listening to my own conscience, like inner guidance, my higher guide, my creator. It's like something greater than myself, my God, like speaking in a small, it's not even a whisper, but it's a still, inner still point of truth. And when I'm out of my head, I have access. It's like a line of communication. My lines of communication shifted, because initially my lines of communication were from what I'll call me to all my thoughts and internal states. But as that line disconnects, I disconnect from that line of communication, suddenly I have access to a deeper, a new line of communication, a direct line to higher guidance, to my conscience.
Yeah.
And from my conscience to my creator, so to speak. Something higher is speaking to me. And that's when you say, trust yourself. It's like, well, that's the self I want to trust. I don't want to trust in the mind that's full of anxiety or fear or the concerns of things that are causing it, this stress, the source of stress. I don't want to be engaging and interacting with all that noise in the head. I want to get quiet and calm, drop in and get present to listening from a different place to a different source within that self.
Yeah, what you're speaking to is so important, because what people don't realize is that reaching into the same, let's say, bucket where your anxiety is, looking for an answer, is like putting your hand in a bucket of crabs. You're going to get bit. You're not going to get the answers you're looking for from the place where the problems are coming from. And our own mind and our own thought stream is really in the way of intuiting the right answer. Now, what new science is revealing is that consciousness itself is non-local. It doesn't exist in your brain. Your brain is like a radio receiver. And if you will learn to allow yourself to step back for just a few moments at a time, you'll begin to see that you have access to everything you need, which is not in you. It's outside of you. It exists in a field of consciousness. And they're calling it the living field. It's a living, like the entire creation, all of the universe is a living field. It's all connected. But the problem with this is that there are two sides to the field. There's the dark side and there's the light. And you have to focus toward the light in the sense that you understand that there is a source of all creation. That source is what we call God. Everybody has a different, in different cultures has a different name for it, but it's the same source of all creation. And if you will lean toward that and call to it with your mind, rather than allow the thoughts to flood in and drown you, if you will call to the source of creation, that source is responsive to us. But it's the same thing when we have anxiety, and that anxiety turns to fear and worry and struggle. We're actually calling to the source of that anxiety, and it's fueling more of the same. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's non-local.
It's kind of like the two wolves within us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Within us are two wolves, and
right.
One represents the voice of doubt.
Exactly.
And self-betrayal. And then there's the other voice, the voice of conscience. That voice, that voice in the wilderness, so to speak.
Mm.
And it's something that when you come out of all that and you get present to that source, that voice, and it's a voice. It's interesting. I'm remembering this is like, I don't know, a couple of months ago, I was on a flight, and I was sitting next to a man, and we started chatting, and he was sharing how he's a Christian and he prays a lot, and he says he talks to God. And I was like, okay, so you pray and you talk to God. And then I said, does God answer back? Like, he goes, oh yeah, God talks to me. And I talk to God all day. And I said, well, how do you know that you're talking to God? And I said, I don't talk to God. I listen. I my prayer is silent. I just get quiet and open myself up as a vessel and listen for that voice of creation, the creative force, the creator, something bigger and beyond myself. Because I think the trap is we can get caught up in just interacting and talking with thoughts. And in that man's case, he's talking to God. And so I'm like, so if God's called you a fat pig, or no, if you said, God, why am I fat? And he's like, well, because you're a fat pig. is that God talking, or is that just that voice, that wolf in your head?
Right.
It's like, to me, you want to clear all that. You want to clear all that. You want to get present. Even for me, like, so as you know, like, I'm a big believer in physical movement.
Right.
In mindful movement where you're present, you're putting your attention on the present moment, and you're moving your body through yoga practice, or for me, even just hiking or working out, with weights, whatever. But if you're putting your attention on something and you're getting present through physical movement, that's a great way of clearing energy. But I'll say this, what I've also learned, I like to meditate before I do anything. Because to me, it's more an honest take on where I am without, getting in the physical movement and releasing all kinds of great hormones that make me feel better and kind of elevate my mood. I actually want to get present to know, how are things actually going on right now in the present for me? Like, what's actually going on? I want to get present to that. Then when I do the physical movement, it's a clearing of debris, like excess debris. It feels like, like not only metabolic leftovers, but mental leftovers are getting cleared out. Yeah. And I think that's part of being prepared, is you're preparing body, mind, and spirit, preparing mind, body, and being. And the source of your being is connected to something higher, something greater, where you're being led.
So the word objectivity helps to clarify what it is we're looking for, in a sense, because if you're not objective, then you're in a subjective state. You become emotional, you struggle, you sink in the mental and emotional quicksand. And unfortunately, because we don't know the alternative, we look at the world through eyes that see it as we are. And so the idea of talking to God, it sounds wonderful, but the problem is that it can become just another, activity that it's self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, you think if you do that, then it's outcome based, honestly. It's not realistic necessarily. I'm not saying don't reach out to God, but what I'm saying is be realistic about it. Know that if there is this unified living force field that everything is connected to, God knows what you need even before you ask for it. That's in the scripture, by the way. If that creation force knows about you, which it does, and if you're connected to it, lean into it, call out for it, but do it, like you said, quietly, not in desperation, even though there's times where you will do that, but lean toward it more and more in your everyday practice of letting go and letting God. If you really believe, you have to trust that God is there. First of all, if you don't trust that God is there, if you don't really believe that there is a force there that brought everything into existence, which many people don't, by the way, they think, it's evolution or whatever. But there is a force, and we're all connected to it. And you have to start trusting that. And when you trust that, then you can trust what it will do for you, and you'll be able to see what it is that you shouldn't do, because I call it the conscious process of elimination. It's not as much sometimes what you do as what you don't do, and you will be shown. And by the way, the word revelation means to be revealed. You'll get revelations about whether you should or shouldn't do a thing. You don't have to have a conversation necessarily with God. God knows about you. He knows what you need before you ask for it. So just lean toward it.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. So let's wrap up in a minute, but let's bring it down to earth here. If you're dealing with a challenge, you're feeling or you're experiencing being burdened, you're struggling, you've got hardship, you've got difficulty, or challenges in work, and your relationships, you're like, let go. Like, don't resist. What you resist, and you have say in this, you have say in the matter of how you be with something or how something impacts you. You have say in, okay, right now I'm rolling up my sleeves and I'm resisting. Resist nothing. Resent nothing. And watch. Drop into center, observe, watch, and you'll see there'll be a light that shines on your path. You'll see the next steps to take. But what you want to stay present to, what you want to stay aware of, is that default tendency to resist, to go into blame and fault and resentment. And all that does is you're adding on, and you are doing that. You're adding on to a situation, a circumstance.
Yeah.
You want to, instead of adding, you want to subtract. It's a subtraction. You want to drop, and you've got to really grapple with yourself to like give up moments and give up the resistance, give up the blame, give up all the head stuff, empty out, give up to get empty, let go to subtract all the things that you're adding, and drop into center, into that still, quiet, small place. Sit and meditate. It's a practice daily. Get present, get ground, locate center. So when you're off center, you know to press pause, stop, drop in, wake up, and really see, okay, yeah, there's a problem here, this external problem in my life I'm dealing with. But you don't want to go into the whole story about the problem. You don't want to grab the bull by the horns and resist and fight. You want to rise above the battlefield of the mind. And from a still point, now you just have there's a problem, and there are things to do to handle that problem. But now you're just handling the problem and doing what needs to be done, rather than having it cause all this stress and burden and overwhelm. And because really I think that's at the source of like how adversity becomes preparatory for greatness.
Yeah. And the one thing to remember is that you can sense when you're overreacting. And when you're overreacting, that means you're becoming the effect of some kind of circumstance, right? It's affecting you in a way that you feel out of control. Now you're struggling to get back in control. But when you realize that you're overreacting, you have the right to put on the brakes. In other words, you don't have to run the red light. You don't have to careen into that next thing that's in front of you. You can just slam on the brakes, step back, be objective for just a split second. It changes the dynamic. And then you find yourself in a different territory. And it's called, rather than reacting, you are free acting. Because when you are the effect of a cause, it's telling you what to do. This is why you don't trust yourself. Yeah. When you're a free actor, when you're not reacting, when you've slammed on the brakes and just said, okay, I'm taking a moment, and then learn to get out of that thought loop and get away from all that feedback loop of other people trying to tell you what the right answer is, you'll find yourself being able to make better decisions and choices, and not even find yourself being forced to make certain decisions. You just wait. You step
really
back and
good.
wait.
Yeah. The reactive mind. When you're reactive, nothing good comes out of that.
Nothing.
And the flip side is when you're dealing with someone who's reactive, in relationship and people you're working with, when people around you are being reactive, if you react back and you go into reactive mode, then it's just like two devils fighting and wrestling, and it goes nowhere other than all your energy bleeds out.
Yeah.
And your insight and your depth. And you've gone back into that head realm and all the emotions that go along with all the thoughts and the story and blah, blah, blah. But it's like when you're in a reactive mode and your feathers are ruffled and you're triggered, stop, drop in, let the other people around you be reactive, and trying to speak into a reactive mind. When someone's in an upset or reactive, they can't hear a word you're saying. And then it just, they're going to lock into their position, and then you take a position. And again, two reactions going at it, it goes nowhere. But if you're that calm, that eye of the storm, and you listen and you let them do whatever they do, that's how they do things. But that's not you. You want to come from wisdom, from a deeper place, from understanding.
Well, I want to make one more point.
You can actually, then you can come from love, and you may need to be firm and take difficult steps or have difficult conversations, but you're doing it from a calm love, and not being a doormat, but you're coming from an actual real strength that you have within you. Yeah.
People write this down. It's so simple and it's so profound. If you are not the effect of some external cause, then you will become the cause of some effect.
Yeah.
If you're not the effect of a cause, you're going to become the cause of an effect. And you're going to be in a different space altogether. You're not going to be the person who's out of control.
Yeah.
And that's, if somebody else is out of control, that's their problem. It's not yours.
Yeah.
You don't need to control that. Just don't let them get to you.
Yeah, really good. We'll end on that note. Yeah, what I get from that is move, breathe, and flow from the inside out to the world rather than taking your sense of self and being from the outside in, and you're just a sponge of